Hi, we're here with John Krasinski and Margot Martindale talking about their new film, The Haulers. Welcome and congratulations to both of you.
Thank you very much.
It's a phenomenal film, very emotional, it's funny, and it's got a great tempo. Really, really great tempo.
Thank you very much.
Tempo, thanks to John Krasinski.
Wanted to bring you back quite a few years. I know one of your first acting roles was doing a Marshalls commercial.
Yes.
I know you've spoken a little bit about that, and I remember I had read that, Margot, you had said, you're not a betting woman, and you didn't have the money at the time, but if you did, you'd put all your chips down on John.
That's so crazy that she said
And
that.
I absolutely said that.
Well, you called that one well.
I did. I'm so glad. I should be a better.
Yeah, you really should.
And John, so let's talk a little bit about the cast and how important is it to you to bring in people on different projects that you've either worked with well in the past or that you've admired from afar, such as Margot?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think that there's huge value to bringing in people you've worked with before. There's the shorthand for sure. I'm also a big believer in family and the idea, hilariously, of course, the movie's about family, but I do feel that way in work too, that there's people of you have been in the trenches with. I find that I always, certainly on the crew too, I brought in the first AD from The Office because I watched how she dealt with stress, not just the good times and all the great episodes. I watched how she dealt when episodes were truly impossible, and she made the impossible possible. So I love working with people who have been through stressful situations with me and have dealt with it with such grace. So it's easy to do. But as far as actors are concerned, that was just purely me completely nerding out as a film fan. To be able to cast Richard Jenkins in a movie is really just an excuse to be around him. That was
no kidding.
I mean, I've called into radio stations if they offered to go anywhere he is and lost, so I had to just cast him in something. But I think that this story truly, the moment I decided to direct this movie, I was only going to do it if I could get the right cast, and I mean this when I say it. I called Margot, and had she said no, I don't think I would have done the movie, because I was that sure that there was only one person to do this, and she is the heartbeat of the movie and the heartbeat of the cast. And I was right, because as soon as she signed on, everyone else followed, because everyone wants to work with her.
Well, that's so sweet. Thank you so much.
And so Margot, I know John's co-star, Steve Carell, actually was in a movie called, as you know, Little Miss Sunshine. And watching this film, it reminded me a little bit of that movie, only because of the hairpin emotional turns, right? A lot of turns here and there. And can you talk a little bit about Jim Strauss's script and the aspect of emotional turns in this film?
Well, I think it's exactly what I thought. A little bit of Little Miss Sunshine. But it's the surprises that come are surprises that actually come in life. And I think he's very specific in how he writes everything. And he's done a very beautiful portrait of a slice of life.
Right. That's right. Yeah, exactly right. And John, you have two alumni, actually a few alum from The Office in the film, right? So obviously we have Josh Groban, that was in The Office. People remember him, and then Randall Park,
yes,
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
People may not know, but he played Asian Jim in The Office, and we see him as the doctor in this film. And what was it like working with past alums and kind of reunited?
Well, Josh had been in The Office, and I think he was cast in one episode just because it was such a big get to get him. And then I actually directed one of the episodes of The Office where his character wasn't involved. And I said to the writers, we have to write this in, because it was a big Ed Helms' character. It was an Andy story. And I said, we got to bring Andy's brother back. This would really help. And so we brought him back. They wrote a whole part for him. And he, of course, said yes very graciously and came in and nailed it. The thing about Josh that I find so hilarious is that he is such a huge deal as a musician, and he transfers into an actor so easily. It's a little frustrating, right? Because we only do one thing, and then this guy just like, yeah, I'm a huge singer, and I can also do your job as well. And Randall Park, I got to know Randall actually on a movie, 5-Year Engagement, that my wife did. I used to go visit and basically stalk the set. And he was a small part in that movie and made such a huge impact on me with that little part. He was as funny as I think I've ever seen someone be, and I truly mean that. And so he's obviously gone on to do tons of different things, from The Interview to what's the show that what is it? Off the Boat, right? Fresh Off the Boat. That's what it is. Fresh Off the Boat. That he's going to be like, get my show right, you jackass. And then, and so I was, again, you know, for him to come in and do a part for us in this movie. And by the way, a part that, let's be honest, all these parts, if you cast them poorly, could just become, you know, derivative sort of cliche versions of other parts you've seen. But you got people like, he's the doctor, and when you read doctor on a part, you think it's got to be the most boring part in the movie. And of course, he brought such an elegant twist to, and such a funny twist to the part.
And Josh was so incredible too, I thought, and so funny. And one of my friends said, "I want him to be my pastor."
No, you're right. He's so natural. It's
Yeah.
so
He really
natural.
really is, yeah.
It's weird to think of him. Oh, as an amazing singer, right?
Right.
So, Margot, let's talk about. You've spent quite a bit of time in this film, obviously in a hospital bed, but people know from the Dexter series, where you're playing Camilla Fig, that you also spent some time in a hospital bed as well. I'd be curious, did anyone on this set bring you any key lime pies? Key lime from the Dexter series.
I was killed by key lime pie.
Oh, Death by Key Lime.
So, John, one of the key messages from the film seems to be that, you know, your fears are much, much worse than reality, right? And that's come up a couple times in the different lines. Do you have any real-life examples where that's the case, where the fear is actually, you know, it's really much greater than it is in reality?
I have countless experiences with that. One of the best bits of advice I ever got was anticipate nothing because it's always worse in your head. And I remember the wording of it so clearly because it's probably the best phrasing of that advice I could ever get. And one of the person who said it to me, I remember I talked to about being very nervous when I first got the office. I certainly, I don't think anybody's ready or used to getting any sort of attention. And in my head, we were going to the first upfronts for the office. It was our first press event. I'd never done press. I'd never had my picture taken, anything like that. And I remember thinking, oh, will I be able to handle it? Is this going to be, you know, outrageous? And am I going to have anxiety, whatever it is? And I went to the red carpet, and I remember I stood in front of probably 150 photographers, and I stepped out, and they all raised their cameras and said, "Who is this?" And the woman said, "This is John Krasinski from The Office." And they all put their cameras down. And then one guy went, "Hey, kid," and side shot a camera. And that was my first experience. I was expecting this huge, overwhelming, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. And it was such a great dose of reality that, like, nothing happened. It wasn't at all scary. No one cared.
That's good.
And it was perfect. It was just such a perfect.
That's a good example. Good example. Wow. So let's switch gears a tiny bit. So I feel like I'm sitting with a bit of hair royalty here. You both have, you know, great heads of hair. You've had many different hairstyles in your films and in the
Hair
office.
royalty.
Hair royalty. Exactly. And you know, there's one scene that really stood out, at least for me, where you know you're both in the hospital room, and the nurse is gonna shave your head, and you said no. I want to do it. Mm-hmm. Can you either one of you, I guess, can you speak to me about sort of the symbolism behind that, and you sort of, hey, no, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that it's a perfect example of Jim Strauss's unbelievable ability to tell stories unlike anybody else, because we're always, as writers, storytellers, whatever, searching for the perfect way to say things. Because in school, I was a writing major at the end, and I remember the first day of class, my teacher started everything by saying, everything's been done before, there's nothing new under the sun. The difference is how you react to it and where you're coming from it, the specific experience.
Yes, so good.
And it really takes all the pressure off, because you don't have to tell. Basically, the Greeks covered it. They covered it a long time ago. So I think for me, what Jim does in that scene is, how do you show a true love between mother and son? But even more importantly, how can you show such a specific act? And let's be honest, in life, most of us don't have the opportunity to do grandiose, big acts. You do the small acts, and those acts change people's lives. And I think that something so small as a son understanding his mother's fear so much that he takes the reins to do that is really powerful. And you can't write that in any scene. It has to be done in a small action like that.
Well said. Yeah, very well said. It's a very powerful scene. Just sitting there, you're like, ooh, this hits home. It's like, I want to thank John Krasinski and Margot Martindale for their phenomenal new film, The Haulers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Brent.
much.
We enjoyed
Thanks for the
this.
kind words.